And we are live with this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson and, of course, Grayson Sheepy G. Marino. And guys, week 2 of college football is in the books. Couple, scenarios in which, we had the exact, things that we thought were going to happen. But there was kind of a big upset at the end of the night on Saturday. A huge top 10 team did go down the hands of another team that has now entered into the top 5 of this week's AP poll. A huge win for that program. And now a big shakeup in this week's AP Top 25 polls.
Is it that big of an upset?
Yes.
Considering what the line was for the game and how, people say...
I would say the fashion of it was shocking.
Yeah, I think the way that game went, it was definitely shocking. And the matter of how they won.
It was definitely an upset.
And we'll definitely talk about it later on.
That's especially being on the road.
Right.
Had that been a home game, maybe it's a little bit less of an upset. But being in Tuscaloosa, probably spoiled it. But
we'll go into it. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm going to save it for for when we get up to it. But
right.
Do you want to get into it, Nick?
Yeah, let's start off with the first game of the day, and that was the 12 o'clock new kickoff game between Nebraska and Colorado. Colorado coming off that big win last week over TCU, now facing Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers, who came off a tough defeat in week 1 against Minnesota on a last-second field goal. And early on, it looked like Nebraska was going to give Colorado a bit of a trouble, with scoreless going into the second quarter. Colorado started getting into a little bit of a groove at the end of the second, and then in the third and fourth quarter, Colorado ran away with the game. They win this one 36-14 and improved to 2-0, and now the Deion Sanders tenure. Shedeur Sanders had another big game for the Buffaloes, 393 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Travis Hunter did some work as well, had 73 yards receiving, also made some good defensive plays for Colorado in this one. And they are looking really good right now to start off this tenure with Deion. They're now 2-0 on the year. They go into a now home game this week against Colorado State. First time in a long time. I don't know if it's the first time they've ever been to Colorado, but if it is, College Game Day will be in Colorado this week to host that game. And it's a big time for this program because they're starting to get a lot more, national media attention towards them as the season goes on. And they'll have bigger games once these next couple of weeks go on. But overall, you got to like what you've seen from this team so far. Now 2-0, looking to go 3-0 this upcoming weekend.
I'm actually surprised that they're doing game day.
I'm not.
The only reason why is you already have the Colorado momentum as it is.
Yeah, so they want ratings, bro.
Yes, but let them win one more game and get do they play USC this year? Yes, right?
They do, yes.
I would have probably waited for that game.
Yeah, but nothing in life is guaranteed, and
of course,
who's to say the wheels fall off the wagon? They could fall off the wagon this week, for all we know. So if they're going to capitalize, they're going to strike when the iron's hot. They're not going to wait 4 or 5 weeks. They're just going to wait. And if you take a look at the schedule this week, the schedule sucks this week.
Yeah, not a great schedule this week, but still should be fun.
The only reason why I'd change it, it's a bias thing, just because it's a
no.
No one cares about either of those.
No,
that's not actually where I was going.
I doubt it, but okay.
Screw you guys.
No, go for it.
Good.
No, I would much rather have had Tennessee and Florida.
There's nothing interesting about that game.
But there's nothing you're only playing off of Deion, which you need to build other programs this year. Deion's already has that program at
Tennessee and Florida already established programs. Colorado sucks.
I'm talking the hype. I'm talking hype-wise for the year.
What hype does Florida have?
It's more for Tennessee. But, you're bringing game day to a...
meddling SEC team or...
Do you see what the line is of this game?
Yeah.
It's a 23-point fucking line. You're bringing College Game Day to that? No, I'm sorry.
Did you see some of the College Game Day lines last year?
Yeah, and I disagree with those. I'm sorry.
I think it all depends on what the other games that week.
College Game Day is all about the campus environment.
Yeah, and the SEC's got a better campus environment probably than Colorado.
Yeah, well,
I would have rather have waited till later in the season, even if Colorado. I'm not saying like I guess falters.
If Colorado loses 2 or 3 games, College Game Day has no reason to go.
Well, here's the problem.
They do.
Here's the problem with Colorado getting game day.
They could have literally done it the next week.
They can't
in Oregon.
No, they don't because next week they're going to be in South Bend for Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Okay, what about September 30th against USC at home?
That's what I'm looking right now.
Who's to say they don't lose these 2 games if they're 2-2? You can justify going to a 2-2 Colorado team
against USC with the hype of Dion? Yeah,
you're striking the irons hot. There's no guarantees.
I'm taking the risk of they're going to beat fucking Colorado State. Oregon's a toss-up, so even if they're a 1-loss team going into the USC game, how is that not your College Game Day?
I mean, you have LSU Ole Miss that week also. They could really build off the hype of. I mean, I'm not saying they should, but Duke got a nice win earlier in the year. They're playing Notre Dame that week as well.
But my point is, of all the games Colorado could have had, this is the one they're going to go with. I don't like it. It's my own opinion. I just don't think this should have been College Game Day.
Honestly, you know what? This may be pretty interesting, and I'm the producers week 4, like you're saying right now with Colorado and Oregon. Week 4, I think you book Oregon, Washington State if both those teams are undefeated.
Well, they're not over Ohio State and Notre Dame.
No, yeah.
No, that is a lock for next week. The argument would be the USC week. I understand that. That would be the week.
Week 4. Oh, wait,
you could get Utah, Oregon State that week. I mean, there's other options here.
That'd be week 5 in the college football year.
Yeah,
USC.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody. Like, I just don't. All I was saying is you could.
This is also an in-state game. That's what makes it different.
But it's not like a good rivalry game. Like, that's my point.
Do you think West Virginia Marshall's a good rivalry game?
I'm not. But I would never say to put them on College Game Day.
I mean, listen, I'm just trying to gauge, like, in the era of the mega conference, this could be one of the last times we see an in-state game like that.
I think they're actually locked into scheduling each other. I'm not.
College Game Day usually has these games locked up, like, pre-hand. So that's...
No, I'm not talking College Game Day. College Game Day definitely didn't have this game on their radar start off. No way.
I think they did. They definitely were going to be at one point in the season going to be there and Colorado.
I disagree with that.
How?
I think they would have waited for the
with the whole game. Hype of the season.
I think they would have waited for the USC game.
Aren't they in USC that week?
No, for week 5. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to be in Colorado, Grayson.
No,
they're in Colorado.
They're in
Colorado. So then fine. They could have done it that week, but they didn't expect Colorado. They didn't expect Colorado to be where they currently are right now.
Exactly. So even
they still could do it.
They're not going to go. They never go to the same place twice in a season.
Well, then I don't know. I'm
going to be real with you, Chief. I wouldn't want to go to any of these other campuses besides Colorado this week.
Well, here's the other problem. That could be also a Fox game.
I guess
it's the Pac-12, so those usually are Fox broadcasted.
I guess I don't know, but that hasn't stopped them before,
right? But I mean, they wouldn't want to have both at the same time. That's in my opinion. That's probably
promote
what
games
it is.
Against your network,
but they have in the past.
But it's at that point it's just pointless. It's like, why have that much coverage on one game?
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just disagreeing on the aspect of that. Should not have been games.
It's just there's no games this week to do it. This is the only game you can do it at. Tennessee, Florida, there's nothing really to... You're going to be basing off of Florida without... there's still no identity with that team right now.
And there's an identity with Colorado State? No,
there's just an identity with Colorado, and that's what everyone wants to watch.
That's all my point was this. I would have rather seen Tennessee this week, and you go and you have the prime matchup of, even if they're a 1-loss team going into that game, they're still going to be ranked, and like, uh,
Yeah, and the Jets were guaranteed to win the to make the playoffs too this season, but plans change.
whatever.
Anyway, let's just move on to the next game as we talked about Colorado. Now we talk about another team that's going to be in the Big 12 as of next season. That's going to be Utah. And they got an early sneak preview of the Big 12 facing Baylor. And this was not an easy game for the Utes going on the road, still without the starting quarterback Cameron Rising. They really struggled in this one to get anything offensively going. Had to score two very late touchdowns, including one in the very last seconds of this game, and had to stop Baylor from tying it, holding on to win at 20-13. They go to 2-0 now in the season, and now an 0-2 start for Baylor. I mean, listen, Utah, we know, has a good quarterback in Rising, but a very, eye-marking game for them in this one. I know, Johnson, you personally were sweating this one out till the very last second.
Sweating it out in a parlay.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Overall, though, Utah, if they can continue this momentum, maybe they'll be a contender in the Big 12 next season when they join the conference. Who knows? But who knows? With all this conference realignment, there's going to be a whole bunch of shakeup that will lead to some of these teams that we don't expect at the end of the day to win some of these major conferences. So who knows? A lot of uncertainty.
I had a feeling that the under would hit in this game, even though I did take the over. With I guess just with how Baylor did the previous week, you didn't expect them to bring the fight.
That's why I thought the over would hit, because I figured you give that many points to a team like Texas State, then
you also got a regressive mean. So
that's also fair, yeah.
I think this is closer to the Baylor team that we saw. They're a lot better than advertised. I know they lost to Texas State, but if they could go toe to toe with Utah, I mean, granted it's at home, whatever, yada yada. They played really good for 3.5 quarters. They just couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, interesting game for that one, and also an interesting game in this next one. And I know this one really, hurts you the most, Johnson. Unfortunately, in your case, even though you took the other team in this one, that would be Texas A&M going on the road to Miami to take on the Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes looked really good in this game. Probably the best game I've seen from Miami in a very long time. Tyler Van Dyke throwing for 5 touchdowns at 374 yards. He outduels Connor Wegman in this one to win it 48-33. Aggies now falling out of the AP Top 25. Miami now jumping into the AP Top 25. So huge win for this program, trying to get back into the ranks in the ACC. And another tough break for the Aggies.
Yeah, this was really a game going into the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter, and then the wheels fell off the wagon when they couldn't get the offense going. Really strong for the first 3 quarters, really no defense being played, and then just 9 straight. They got a touchdown and another deep touchdown towards the end there. Really sealed the deal. They really had a chance going into the last 4 or 5 minutes. It was just the back-bending deep pass that destroyed this team's momentum. I shouldn't say the momentum, but the chances of winning this game.
Well, think about it, too. They also made it a 1-point game, and then they gave it up an immediate kickoff return. That put Miami back up 8 points, and it just seemed like right there and then things were going wrong. Wegman throws an interception then after, and it really, you said it, the rails really went off for the Aggies in this game and lead to their first loss of the season.
Special teams lost in this game.
Right.
I'm aware he threw 2 picks, but you can't be allowing almost 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. You can't kickoff return touchdowns. You can't allow that.
Right.
I would say this was probably a pick'em game, probably a slight lean toward Miami, 60-40 up until the beginning of the fourth quarter.
I don't know. I felt like Miami they just felt like they were going to win that game. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just the way I felt about it. I guess I was confident that Miami was going to be able to win.
If you showed someone only the first 20 minutes of the game, you would have clearly thought that A&M was going to win, because they were off to a hot start. They had them outscored by 10 early in the second quarter, and then the wheels kind of fell off the wagon by then.
But you know what, though? This is something this is just my kind of thing. When you come out to that hard of a start, most of the time I feel like it cools off, and when it cools
off,
yeah,
you have to regress to the mean.
Yeah, like that's why I've always been. I wouldn't say you want to come out hot, of course, but like I don't know. I'd much rather steadily get into a game and then the offense gets going. You know what I'm saying? Where like it felt like A&M came out just firing.
Well, another team that was also firing on all cylinders, and mostly in that second half compared to their first half, that was Ole Miss going on the road against Tulane to take on the Green Wave. And you got to give Tulane credit. You know, they had their backup quarterback playing in this game. They fought throughout most of the first half with Ole Miss, but the Rebels were just too much for them in the second half. They outscored Tulane in that one 27-3 in the second half to win this game by a final of 37-20. Jackson Dart did pretty good for the Rebels in this game, threw for 267, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception as well. But a big win for Ole Miss. They get some momentum in the SEC. They're going to be playing LSU in the next couple of weeks. So that's a big game on their schedule coming up at home. And they get some good momentum, a tough break for the Green Wave. They are a good, non-Power 5 team that it puts up these battles with some of these Power 5 schools. Unfortunately for this one, they just could not keep up with the Rebels.
I would say they're probably one of that top end group of 5. Like I'd say they're at least top 3 out of the group of 5 schools right now.
Right.
Them and the next team we're going to be talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's pretty confident that they're like 2 of the top 3 out of the group of 5.
Yeah, no, and you spoke about it just briefly there about the next team that we're going to talk about, and that's Appalachian State. And this was a close game, and I was not surprised it was, because remember, they had a thrilling game last season between these two teams, between North Carolina and Appalachian State, meeting again this year. Yeah.
App State just never goes away.
They
doesn't want to die.
They put up a hell of a battle in this game against a potential top 5 pick, whatever it may be, in Drake May, and they put up a lot of points, and they really had a chance to win this game at the end of the day. They just fall in double overtime by the final of 40-34 to the Tar Heels. A big survival for North Carolina. They came off the win in week 1 against South Carolina. Now they barely hang on this week against Appalachian State. So a big sigh of relief for North Carolina as they now go to 2-0 on the season. Drake May didn't really do as much as he did in this game. Did not have a touchdown pass. Did throw for 200 yards. It really was Omari and Hampton that led the way for the Tar Heels. 234 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Huge reason why North Carolina wins this game and avoids a major upset.
Yeah, 100%.
Can we talk about their quarterback, Joey Aguilar?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think is he a true freshman?
I believe so, but I couldn't know off the top of my head.
No, he's not a true freshman. What am I saying? I think he's a junior. Why do I think true freshman? Even though
it wouldn't surprise me even if he was.
Yeah, I think he's second or third year, but to hold his own versus a Power 5 opponent like that, and a good Power 5 opponent in North Carolina, I know he's not going to get drafted this year or even close to it, but if he could put together a very solid build on this, put together a solid season, and even have a better season next year, maybe use the transfer portal to his advantage. Because, listen, if he could play like this against North Carolina, he could easily transfer to the ACC and I think do this on a weekly basis.
Okay, well,
would that be, am I too far-fetched to say that?
I would just say it's one game. Like,
yeah, but it's one game versus a good team. It's not like it's like a bad Power 5 school.
Yeah, but it's still just a one game thing. I mean, there's so many flash in the pan games where you're locked in and
see how the rest of the season goes. If you do really well, then you could be a day 3 pick in the NFL draft. Who knows?
Like I would say,
I'm not saying he's gonna get drafted off this, but I'm saying he's.
No, I'm not saying that either.
You gotta like his origin story too, because I thought he was a freshman because I think this was his first year playing, but he's actually a community college transfer. So this guy went to JUCO. And had to really earn his way into a starting position. So he's starting right now, year 1, I guess, in this conference, going against a Power 5 school. So he's got 2 years of D1, not 2 years, 2 games of D1 experience, and he can do this. I mean, that's very, very comforting if I'm an App State fan.
No, of course, but coming from somebody that has experience of watching quarterbacks, I mean, Bo Nix now is good, but Bo Nix beat Alabama, but then also put up an absolute shit stinker against Texas A&M when we were there a couple years back. Like, some quarterbacks just have it on any day. I'm not going to judge him just off the one game. That's more.
I mean, the only other game in his college experience was last week versus Gardner Webb, where he went 11 for 13 with 174 yards and 4 touchdowns. So
yeah,
you can't really go off anything. Like
no,
he's got 2 games.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't say he's ready to go compete against the ACC every week yet. If he consistently puts up these numbers all year, sure, but if not, like, I mean, I wouldn't put him against a Power 5 school.
I think he can, and this is why. The talent pool on App State, his receivers, his linemen, his tight ends, his running backs the talent is just way different. So if he could do that with, I don't want to say garbage men, but if you give him a competent team around him, I think he'd be a lot better than this.
I mean, the world may never know.
Yeah, we might not ever know, but
checking in 5 weeks.
Yeah, let's see how he does the rest of the season. But a quarterback that Grayson just brought up a few moments ago was Bo Nix, and let's talk about Bo Nix and the Oregon Ducks hanging on to beat Texas Tech. A thrilling win at the very end for the Ducks. They went into the fourth quarter trailing by 9 points, but were able to outscore Texas Tech 20-3 in that fourth quarter to hang on 38-30. Nix throwing for 359 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He also got very lucky at the end of the game, almost threw a really bad interception that was called incomplete and led to Oregon getting a field goal on that possession. But major survival for Oregon in this win. They now go to 2-0 in the season. They got Colorado coming up next week. So they've got a big game coming up as well. Texas Tech, unfortunately, now for them, they fall to 0-2 on the season. But, man, this could have went really bad for Oregon if they had not had that big fourth quarter. So they're very grateful to be going back home with a 2-0 record.
I was sweating out this game too. Thought they were going to ruin my parlay. It was the last leg. I just needed them to. I took a money line.
Oh, you took the money line.
I took a money line. You got to remember they were losing up until the last couple minutes of this game. You would have thought this would have been Texas Tech's game halfway through the fourth quarter, just because Oregon couldn't do anything. So it was mind-boggling to me how a team could perform so poorly against Texas Tech when they haven't. When they weren't hot last week. It's just it seems to me that the upper echelon of the Pac-12 is kind of being punished. Not in the sense of they're playing down to their competition. You saw this, like we mentioned earlier, of Utah and Baylor, and both these games shouldn't have been close. Both of these should have been 2 touchdown scores. Whatever. You have a good time. You take your starters out in the towards the end of the game. But no, these were nail biters from the beginning to the end. Is this karma for leaving the Pac-12? Maybe.
Could be. It's possible. Sure. And another thing about this game, Johnson, and I know you and I were talking about this a lot. How about the swing of the spread in this game at the end of the game? Oregon has a 31-30 lead. And the over-under, too. Not only they literally get a pick six at the end of the game to hit the cover. I forgot they did not hit the over because they lost it by a point. And that was because of a missed extra point earlier in the game. So that's a bad beat on a multitude of weights. But if you had Texas Tech plus 6.5, you're really, unfortunately, not happy about it. If you had Oregon minus 6.5, you were absolutely going wild for that late pick six. But nonetheless, the Ducks get the win. They're now 2-0. Colorado's coming up very soon for them. We'll see how they do in that game. Another team that they'll be looking into, and that's a team that pulled off a nice big win at home. That's the Washington State Cougars at home against Wisconsin. They beat the Badgers in this one 31-22. Big win for Washington State. They now get into the top 25 polls with this win. Cameron Ward looked pretty good, 212 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Really held the Badgers down overall defensively in this one. It's a big win for Wazoo. I mean, listen, they're trying to make some noise in the Pac-12. I didn't think they'd be ranked this early on in the season, but here we are now.
I'm happy they are. I'm happy that not only Washington State is, but Oregon State is too. Both those guys got left out in the cold. They got backstabbed by everyone else, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, it's really good to see, especially like you mentioned, that they're one of the only 2 teams remaining of the current Pac-12 that are still with that conference, and we don't know what the future holds for those two teams, but it's a good, win for the good guys in Washington State, getting the win over Wisconsin, now getting into the top 25 polls going into this week. And maybe they build some momentum as the season goes on and make a bowl game this year. So who knows? But overall, great win for the Cougars.
Yeah, I want to talk about Wisconsin's season so far. I know they looked like an easy game versus Buffalo last week. I didn't mention this because there's really nothing noteworthy since they won. But the first half of that game was not easy for Wisconsin. It was a one score game at the half, 14-10. They end up, coming out really strong in the third quarter, getting a couple touchdowns on the board. They put the game away in the in the fourth quarter by getting another field goal, going up 3 scores. But let's talk about Wisconsin now. They fired their head coach last year, Paul Chryst, midway through the season for a guy that I thought was going to be the guy. I think it was Jim Leonhardt.
I think you're right.
And they thought, oh, he's going to be the coach. He's going to be the coach. They were really convinced it was going to be him. He turns out to be mediocre. And they hire Luke Fickell instead, and he goes to Illinois. So you fired a guy that was consistent. I mean, he was having a down year, granted. And now you just lose to Washington State. So where do you go from here if you're Wisconsin? Because if your standard right now is you want to be the upper echelon top 10, because clearly top 20, top 25 wasn't good enough. You want to be top 10, top 5, fighting for a playoff spot, and you lose to a team that no other conference wanted, including your own. What standard does that say about your program?
And think about all the teams that are going into the Big Ten next year. I mean,
no, Wisconsin's going to get absolutely lost next year,
right?
And
they're
going to be hilarious. And
And
like Paul Chryst said, or I don't think it was Paul Chryst, I think it was a prior Wisconsin head coach, their standards for recruiting is too high.
Right.
They said, like, this, I'm not a miracle worker. You cannot get 5-star athletes if you want these high academic standards. You're going to have to pick one. Look at Stanford.
Right. Yeah, Stanford's been going badly right now.
Yeah, I mean, you choose one. You choose academics or you choose sports. You don't get both.
Yeah, but Stanford's fallen off. I wouldn't even say.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. Well, yeah, because Stanford's standards are way higher than Wisconsin, and unfortunately, the higher standards you have, the less athletes you have to choose from. So, if the best guys in your class, like, oh yeah, get this 3-star running back, because he meets the academic requirements, I can't go after the 4-star guy because he doesn't meet them, and that's something that the university has to look back. So, it's not even that like Luke Fickell is failing. It's that this is a problem with Wisconsin's athletic department. He's being set up to fail.
Right. It's only his second game into his tenure, so I mean, he's still got.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's being set. He's getting set up to fail by the athletic department, by his own university. And when he gets fired in a year or two, remember this conversation.
And remember, Luke Fickell took a Cincinnati program to the college football playoff just not too long ago. So that's what they're hoping for. But like you said, you can't perform miracles all like that. I know the playoff is going to 12 teams next year. It's still not going to be easy considering the amount of teams that are going into the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, it's. They're just never going to be able to recruit unless, like Johnson said, they drop their academic standards, and they're never going to do it.
Right.
And it's a shame because, I mean,
they were good a couple years. They were good a while back when they had Russell Wilson. That's when the hype was there for Wisconsin.
I love it when Wisconsin and Nebraska are good football teams.
You probably haven't seen that.
It's been a while though, but yeah,
no, but just overall, I mean, it just brings.
No, those are two of the best fan bases for college football.
Yeah,
because the fans will go to watch those games. The problem is they just haven't been good. Haven't had good football in over a decade plus.
I can't believe they fired Paul Chryst. This is still mind-boggling to me.
Right.
Outside of that COVID year, I think he was 61-20 as a head coach there.
Yeah, which is
67-26.
Yeah, which is
without the COVID year and the year he got fired, because you're not going to count that, he was, I think, 61-20 or something.
It's insane to fire a head coach with that record.
Well, I think, guys, it's now finally time to talk about the final game of the week, and we alluded to it earlier. A huge win for this team on the road in Tuscaloosa. That being the Texas Longhorns. They go on the road into Alabama and not only make a statement, but they beat Alabama by 10 points in this one, 34-24. Quinn Ewers, I know you guys have given him crap before, but you got to admit he played a really good game in this one for Texas.
Listen.
Go ahead.
I said the minute he starts to falter, Arch gets put in. And I think he knows that. And he's playing really well under that microscope right now because everyone knows that the second he starts to falter a little bit, they're going to put Arch in. But as long as he keeps on playing at this elite level, not only is he going to be a draft pick, but he might lead Texas to a national championship.
He's projected right now to be the 6th overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not only is he going to be a draft pick if he continues playing at this elite level, but he might lead Texas to a national championship.
If they play like they did against Bama, it's possible. Listen, their defense looked really good. Jalen Milroe did throw 2 really bad interceptions.
Awful. He was awful.
He has not been hot this year.
But even the first half, I mean, you look at the first half defense for Texas. They only allowed 6 points in the first half, and that was a really good first half for them. Second half, they kind of faltered a little bit, but they overall played a good defensive game, holding Alabama to those 24 points. And we talked about Ewers, 349 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. That's huge for Texas right now, getting that good quarterback play. Because week 1, he did struggle against Rice, and they were worried going into this game. If you were a Texas fan, he really, knocked all those worries away with the performance that he did in this game, leading the Longhorns to the win. They're now in the top 5. I believe they're now ranked number 4 in the AP poll going into this week. Alabama now dropping to 10 in the AP poll after this loss. I don't remember the last time Alabama was as close to falling out of the top 10 as a whole.
So I'm going to give some food for thought here, right?
Yeah.
Nick Saban is 190-28 in all his years at Alabama, right?
Okay.
He's lost 28 games in 17 years, so about a game and a half a year. However, in the last couple of years, and remember, we're only 2 games into 2023. He could lose more games this year.
I have a bad feel where you're going with this.
He's lost 5 games.
Oh no!
In the last 3 years, right? He's lost 19% of his total, 18% of his total games in his career at Alabama in the last 3 years. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying he's going to get fired or whatever like that. But what I'm saying is, Alabama is clearly trending down from the last couple of years. I know they won a championship 2 years ago, but the trend is they're trending down now. There's nothing wrong with that. They had their time at the top.
The problem for Alabama, and we all knew it going into the season, was going to be their quarterback play. And that's been you look at some of the other teams. Ohio State is potentially going to be in trouble with their quarterback play. Georgia has had their struggles early on with their quarterback play as well. Bama's doing the same thing. And you saw it in this game. Milroe just really had some bad throws. He also had some good throws. He just really could not have a full, complete game where it was good enough for them to win. And that's going to be a problem because they have some other big games the rest of the way. If they're going to win the SEC and get back into the playoff discussion, he has to play better.
I mean, Nick, you and me were sitting there watching the game, and he's
he's staring down he was staring down his wide receivers.
The comeback route. How do you stare down a comeback route?
So here's the crazy part now. Here's the crazier part. If you want to exclude Nick Saban's first 2 years where he went 2-6 and 12-2, he's lost a quarter of his games out of that in the last 15 years, in the last 3 years, and we've only had 2 games this year so far. So he could easily add to that. So if you lose 25% of your games in your pretty much the last 15 years, in the last 3 years, that's worrisome. It's not like he's losing 4 or 5 each year. That's the standard. No, because he has a lot of seasons where he only loses 1 game, and that was the standard. Probably the standard between 2011 to 2020.
I'm really waiting for you to say the word.
What's the word?
Are you going to say the word that I think you're going to say about Nick Saban right now?
I think he might.
No, I'm not going to say he's washed.
Okay.
I'm not going to say he's washed, but I have to say
you'll have a lot of people telling you otherwise.
He has to adapt though in this NIL era though, because my fear with the NIL is even though Alabama is a traditional power, when he leaves, because he's going to leave soon. I believe he's 71 or 72 years old, so he's going to leave soon in the next couple of years. He needs to set Alabama up with the NIL. He needs to get the donors in. He needs to internally name a successor if he hasn't done so already. The second thing he has to do is get the board and get his entire university staff on board to facilitate NIL deals with local car dealerships, restaurants, whatever, around the state of Alabama to ensure that there is a fund going forward for these students, because we're kind of seeing it with I know it's basketball, but we're seeing it with North Carolina right now in the NIL. They're not doing so hot right now. It was a power program for 30 years with Roy Williams. You get Hubert Davis in there. They have pretty much Roy's team goes to the national championship game, and then the next year they don't even make the tournament. And now he's having recruiting problems, and this is all because of the NIL era and the instant transfer portal. So I think Nick Saban has to set up a safety net to ensure Alabama's dominance in the future.
Well,
is that so crazy for me to think that?
I mean, I think I think it's kind of an overreaction just after one game. There's still a whole season for Alabama to fix this. It's good that they lost this early because now you have a whole rest of the season to fix anything you did wrong in this game.
They could easily win the next 10 games. We don't even talk about this, but it's something to think about going forward.
Right, and listen, this is a good stepping stone because listen, now they know what Texas is going to be when Texas joins the SEC. Now they kind of know what they do. Remember also Steve Sarkisian, the current Texas head coach. He's a former Saban, coordinator. And yes, the norm would be those guys usually won't beat Nick Saban, kind of like how the same thing for the NFL with Bill Belichick and his assistants. Sometimes they beat Belichick, sometimes they don't. Sarkisian had a good game plan for this game. They really exposed the Alabama defense throughout most of the game, and they were able to get some good defensive plays. I think at the end of the day, just looking at this game, it's mostly an overreaction. I think if people are saying, "Oh, that's it for Alabama," that they're never going to be back to where they are. They're still Alabama. They're going to be competing for national championships, into the playoff discussion. It's still early in the season. We're going into week number 3. There's still plenty of time for this team to even win out.
I'm worried about for their future rather than their
right.
the long distance future rather than the immediate future. Because I'm saying there's chinks in the armor right now, and you probably haven't seen any dents in the armor in the last 13 years.
They'll be able to recruit. They're just
I'm not. As long as Nick Saban is there, they'll be able to recruit.
Saban will be involved even after he's done coaching. He's going to be there.
Listen, they said the same thing about Hubert Davis and UNC. I realize different
sport, listen, Roy Williams still technically does get involved with UNC. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I'm sure Nick Saban, when he retires in a couple of years, he'll still be involved in Alabama until he dies. But you're not playing for Nick Saban anymore.
Well,
you're playing for coach, whatever.
It all depends on who they hire. Who are they?
I was going to say
it's still a while to go.
So internally, name a successor or have a couple ideas of successors. You got to start planning right now.
There's plenty of names that have used to either are on the staff or used to coach.
For all we know, Bill O'Brien comes back in a couple of years.
Hey, you know what?
You don't know.
Coach,
it's possible.
That wasn't bad.
Bill O'Brien, listen, that got him back in the NFL. That job with Alabama got him back in the NFL.
Oh yeah, no, he had a really good game with the Patriots this week, and we'll go more into that later on in the show. But fantastic offensive coordinator, to say the least.
Definitely better than Matt Patricia, that's for sure. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about that in part 2 of our show this week.
I mean, when it comes to like the successor of Saban, I mean, I'd like to see them. I'd like to see who he's been molding. He's definitely been molding somebody internally for a while. Somebody that just flies under the radar, but has been a huge part of their program on the inside. And I think that's who's going to end up taking over. Like, Saban's, I feel like, too smart of a guy to not be grooming somebody,
No, I agree. There's definitely a contingency plan, but I don't know what it is yet. But we're not going to know for a little bit. I don't think he's done yet. He's still got a couple more years.
No, he's got a couple more years. But I'm saying in the near future, he's probably done. He's probably got 4 or 5 years left at most.
Yeah, so we'll have to see, but we'll get ahead of ourselves. That's a conversation for another day, for a very, in the distant
rainy day.
Yeah, exactly, a rainy day. But it's now time for our favorite part of the show, guys, the Mushing Hour. And it's week 3 of college football. It's been a very up and down season so far for all 3 of us in terms of our I almost said draft picks, but in terms of our picks for this season. On the year, I am currently 11-10 in college football picks. Johnson is 8-6. Grayson 6-11. So It has been very up and down, Grayson. Most of your losses came from this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had a tough week.
Same for me. Johnson had a very good week this week, going 6-2. So we'll try to see if we can mend the ship this week and make some better picks as we go into this mushing hour. A couple of games this week. We did mention that the slate isn't as good as it has been the first 2 weeks of the season, but we will still pick the games that we think will be the games to watch out for this upcoming week 3 of college football. With that being said, we'll get into the first game, that being number 14 LSU at Mississippi State. The Tigers are currently a 9.5 point favorite on the road, with the over-under being 54.5.
Can I start?
Go ahead.
Sure.
It's LSU season. I think Mississippi State is. I know they could be kind of at home for another week, but Brian Kelly is going to bounce back because he's not really good in the big games, but he's good in the games that no one cares about. I don't think anyone cares about this game.
I really can't fight with that argument.
I really can't either. And the
give me LSU points minus 9.5.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, I don't have the balls to take that minus 9.5 because, again,
10 points.
I don't trust Brian.
You got to take Mississippi State to cover. That's the question.
I actually am taking Mississippi State to cover, but I do think LSU wins this game. But I think it's
by a touchdown, not by a touchdown and a field goal. That's understandable.
Yeah.
I have no choice but to take LSU because of all my blasphemy I spoke about in our preview of the college football season. So I will take LSU minus 9.5.
All right, Nick's rolling with LSU. And the next game we got on our list here is Penn State. We have number 7 Penn State going on the road to the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Penn State, 14.5 point favorites on the road. 48.5 is the over.
I'm going to go with the under, and I honestly might take Illinois to cover in this game. Illinois has been one of the better defenses in the Big Ten the past couple of seasons. I know they had a bad game last week against Kansas, but Penn State, it seems as if usually when they go on the road in these games, they kind of struggle, especially with the new kickoff. I'm going to take Illinois to cover and to give me the under also for this game.
All right, and Grayson?
I'm taking Penn State in the over. I think Penn State's hitting the over by themselves.
Penn State, and so the cover?
Yeah.
So Penn State and the over, which means I'm the tiebreaker here.
You are the tiebreaker.
I think they hit the over this game. I'm not going to pick between teams because I think 14.5 is kind of too large in either direction. I'm going to say the over here. Okay. No defense is going to be played.
Okay, that's fair.
And the next game we have number 15, the Kansas State on the road going to Missouri. Old school Big 12 matchup. Kind of, sort of, not really. Kansas State 5 point favorites on the road. 48 is the set over under. Who wants to start?
I'll take Kansas State minus 5, or is it 5.5?
It's 5.
5. You know what? Give me 6.5.
Fine. Daring today, aren't we?
Well, 5. It's like
you're actually for a touchdown. Might as well.
You might as well just go for the 6.5. Get a little bit more money out of it.
Get some more action.
Yeah, a little bit more dough coming the way if it actually hits.
Now, Johnson, what do I usually say about Big 12 teams?
No defense.
Yeah, and they're playing Missouri, who used to be in the Big 12, so that just makes me want to take the over. So I will take the over this week.
All right, so I'm the decider here. Kansas State has not been. I really like Kansas State, but are they as good as advertised? Do I think they can cover? I'm gonna pick Missouri to cover here.
Okay.
I'm gonna take +5 because I think I don't think Kansas State will cover. I think they'll end up with the win, maybe by like a field goal or so. So I'm gonna say they're gonna win by less than 5 points. So I'm gonna take Missouri +5.
Okay.
And Nick, we have your Syracuse Orangemen going on the road to face the Purdue Boilermakers. It's Cuse on the road, who was a 2.5 point favorite, and the over/under set at 58.
Well, do you want me to start it off, or you want to save my comment for last?
I mean, I'm going to take Cuse minus 2.5. They're going to start 3-0.
Okay.
Oh God, Nick, I don't want to do this to you.
Go ahead, just do it.
Cuse money line.
Oh man, we're gonna really kill me this week, huh? Well,
We have a
my
mush.
heart is torn for this game because Johnson knows what Purdue did to me in week 1 of the college football season, so I don't like them already as it is. And Syracuse has already torn my heart so many times in terms of college football. They're 2-0. They played two really bad teams the first 2 weeks, so it's kind of an overreaction. These two teams did play a really fun game last season in the Carrier Dome. Syracuse winning on a last-second touchdown. I hate to pick them, but I'm just going to take Syracuse -2.5 also. It's going to be a full mush, and it's probably for better reasoning. They'll probably lose this game. It's on NBC at night, which I'm
Man,
stunned.
that is a
I'm stunned
recipe for
Syracuse is going to be
disaster.
playing in a quote-unquote like primetime slot, so they probably will lose this game, but I can't pick against my team.
Well, Nick, I admire your dedication. The next game we have local favorites. Rutgers. We have Virginia Tech on the road visiting Rutgers. Beautiful, beautiful New Jersey. Rutgers at home is a touchdown favorite, -7. 39.5 is the over/under. Gentlemen,
might be the first time I've heard someone say beautiful.
Feed me Rutgers and the points.
Oh man,
we got Rutgers +7.
No, -7.
Rutgers -7.
-7.
Yeah, imagine.
Now, Johnson, I need to ask you a question. How do you spell Rutgers?
Rutgas.
Exactly. The gas at the end makes me immediately take Rutgers. Give me
gas, no
Rutgers -7 in this game. I am not willing to take any points because I can't tell you if Virginia Tech will score or not. They most likely will, but I'll stick with the -7.
Well, I'm going to take the over because Rutgers is scoring 40 by themselves. So the over 39.5 is just clearly, offensive mastermind Greg Schiano will lead Rutgers to victory. Probably 54-14. So I think you can take
except for that Giants game.
I think you could take Rutgers -39.5 and they would cover here, but I'm going to be conservative and just take the over.
Virginia Tech did. No, that was Virginia. I'm sorry, Virginia Tech. Did Virginia Tech win that game, Johnson? Against? I think they lost that game against Purdue, right?
I believe they did.
That long delay. I believe they did. They did.
Yes.
I did. I almost mixed them up with Virginia, who lost to James Madison. I know you were happy about James Madison winning.
Yeah, cover. All right, and next game we have is the backyard brawl by some team. You might have heard of them, Pittsburgh, kind of a local community college, and West Virginia. I think they might be D2. Pittsburgh -1. Pittsburgh going into West Virginia. Would you rather be D2 or community college? Just be real here.
I think I'd rather not have a football program.
We have Pittsburgh -1 on the road, very favorites, going into Morgantown, over/under set at 50. Good picks.
Do you want me to get this out of the way?
Yeah, I'll take a step away and I'll come back in 15 minutes. Go ahead.
No, this isn't even going to be a
Johnson, let him go last. I went last with my Syracuse pick.
That's fair.
I'll pick with mine. Now, can I put on the sheet that I hope the field blows up? Is that too bad of me?
Yes, it is.
I would say I semi-agree with you, but I have a couple of friends that go into the game.
All right, maybe not blow it up. That's bad. Now, what about? Hold on, let's strike that from the record. How about a lightning delay so long that they just never play the game at all?
I'd love that. That's beautiful. Let the tailgate just keep going, baby.
Want either of these teams to win. Can they just make an NFL rule or like make a soccer rule in which they just tie at the end? What I'll do is I'll pick the over because I don't want either of these teams to win, so I'm not going to root for any of these teams. So I'm just going to root for the points.
Nice.
What do you got, Johnson?
You're taking the over?
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I'm also taking the over.
Okay, good.
Big 12 defense, ACC offense. So give him the over.
All right, now for the grand finale.
Well, I'm just going to get my pick out of the way. I'm not touching who's winning this game.
Don't be that person. Take West Virginia. You know you want to. I took Syracuse. Come on.
Fuck it.
You can do it. There you go.
There you go. Okay. So here's my thinking right now. Best case scenario, you beat Pitt and Morgantown. Fantastic. Honestly, you can
need
lose
revenge from last year.
Yeah, need it desperately. I can't stand thinking that they beat us last year. It makes me sick. Worst case, second best case scenario, you lose and Neil Brown gets fired on the spot.
You've been asking for his head now for 3 weeks.
I've been asking for his head for 2 years.
That's true.
But this is it. I mean, after you almost shit yourself against Duquesne, they did shit themselves against Duquesne.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Duquesne's a quality program.
That first half was disgusting. I actually think I watched better fucking football at St. Peter's Boys High School.
You did watch a really good
They
game
were very, very good. Shout out to the Eagles, 2-0, undefeated on the
season.
Great
win this week.
But that was abysmal. The guy's I don't want to say incompetent as a head coach.
No, you can.
But he's as close to incompetent as you could be.
No, he's incompetent. You're right. Well,
he's able to semi-recruit, which is why he's brought in some good talent. I mean, he's found a couple.
Yeah, has that talent produced anything so far?
Well, no, because he can't coach for shit.
Well,
but he's found the talent. Okay. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on that aspect. But when it comes to actually in-game coaching and throughout the week, I don't know if there's a worse coach in the goddamn nation.
All right.
Like, he's awful. But, like I said, I'd really like to win this game. But if losing this game means Neil Brown's fired, I'll take the loss this year and come back next year and get that dub.
And then you wake up. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
All right, and we're going to go on to our next game.
Let's get that bad taste out of our mouths, Johnson.
All right. We have South Carolina, Spencer Rattler going on the road to Georgia, University of Georgia at home, 27.5-point favorites, over under at 54.
Georgia is 27.5.
I'm taking favorite. South Carolina plus 27.5. I don't care
how
they perform.
Bitch.
There's no way Georgia covers this.
Grayson, I swear to God. Don't do it.
I was actually going to alternate spread that.
To what?
Taking South Carolina plus 10. Because I think this game's going to be way closer.
What? I don't believe that.
No, I don't. Okay, listen, I'm taking South Carolina to cover, but not like that. I'll just take the regular cover.
Yeah, there's nothing really. There's not much to be said.
Listen, they lost by 21 to UNC. That was a rough game. They could have easily won. They just really faltered. But Georgia has really scared me offensively, and I think Rattler can keep them in the game. But I still think Georgia will win by 2+ touchdowns, not 4+ touchdowns. So I'll take.
That's what we really got to say about that.
Yeah. Then we got the next game, Johnson. 8th-ranked Washington going into East Lansing to take on Michigan State. A lot of news going around Michigan State right now with Mel Tucker, the old scandal that's going on, suspended, fired.
Human garbage.
Yeah, we really don't know what's going on with them right now, but they are in a world of fire, as you mentioned.
Oh, they said suspended still?
He's fired. He's done.
I was going to say, I saw like 4
I saw fired. Someone told me last night he was suspended. I don't know what the situation is right now with him.
No, he will never coach it down a football.
He shouldn't. Absolutely. So no matter what, being that as it may, Washington is the 8th-ranked team in the country going on the road. They are 16-point favorites in this game with a 57.5 over/under for the game. What do you guys have for this one?
I got Washington minus 24.
Oh my God!
I honestly think Michigan State's morale is going to be in the garbage, and Washington is going to be highly motivated to keep that ranking.
What was the initial spread?
16.
Okay, hey, because I was going to say 21.
No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going
Washington minus 21.
And you know what? I think Washington's hitting the over themselves.
So you go Washington and the over?
Yep.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Johnson, I'll save you some time. I'll make my pick. I will take Washington. I'll just take them the regular spread. Because I'm not
taking Washington and the over, right?
He is taking Washington minus 21 and the over. Feeling a little bit ballsy with that one, but that's all the Mushing Hour is all about.
The next game we have.
Yep, go ahead.
Is number 11, the Tennessee Volunteers going to the Swamp, going to the University of Florida to take on the Gators. Tennessee, even though they're number 11 in the country, only 6.5-point favorites on the road, over under at 59.
Never easy to win the Swamp. Remember that.
Never.
It's not easy, but
I'll start us off.
Yep.
Give me the under. 59 points in an SEC game. That is a lot of points in an SEC game. So, especially going to the swamp where it seems like everyone is gets minus 15 agility because of the humidity and the heat down there. So, give me the under.
Okay.
Nick, you go.
This has been a tough game for me to look at. I mean, I really would like to say Florida will keep up with Tennessee. Tennessee just has the better quarterback play, obviously, in this game with Milton compared to Mertz. But I hate to do it to you, Johnson. I also like the under in this one. I haven't liked what Tennessee's done offensively in their first 2 games of the season, and Florida has been all right defensively so far, and usually is a good defensive team throughout most of their games. I think they'll hold Tennessee to a low-scoring game in this one, but I still think Tennessee will win at the end of the day. I just don't know if I'm willing to take the minus 6.5. I could see Tennessee winning on a last-second field goal.
All right, and Grayson?
I'm about to go off the reservation, boys.
Oh, boy.
We're going Florida minus 3.5.
Wow.
You know what?
I don't know what you've seen out of Florida, but okay.
I haven't seen anything.
It's just about Tennessee, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't trust that team for fucking as far as I can throw them, and I can't throw very far anymore.
That's a great analogy, let me tell you.
Going into the swamp, man, I wouldn't want to go play in the swamp. And you know what? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that Gator.
Okay.
Give me the Gators.
Yeah, so Grayson's going Florida minus 3.5. And we have the game of the week, the game everyone's talking about on ESPN. Everyone loves this, and everyone wants game day to be here, including Grayson.
Yeah. I've loved it more than anything else in my life.
Colorado State on the road, going across the state
Shout out
to number 18
Rams.
Colorado. Yep, the Rams taking on the Buffaloes, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, his son, his son's friends, his other son,
adopted son,
the hot tub that Travis has got.
Yeah, but they're gonna put Travis in the hot tub, probably built into the locker room at halftime.
I got a hot tub.
He's gonna.
God damn it, Nick! I was just thinking about that.
Taking the Lord's name in vain over here. Not even done. Colorado minus 23 at home. Over under set at 59. Gentlemen, please give me your picks.
I'll start this off hot. We're going to go.
I gave it for the alternate spread. It's happening.
Oh, it's definitely happening. What was the line again?
Minus 23.
23? Light work. Colorado minus 33.5.
33.
And we're taking the over because Colorado's hitting it by them fucking selves.
Oh, my God.
All right, so I see Grayson wants to go 2-7 in his picks this week.
Listen, I forced him to take a WVU money line, so he's going to be in for an interesting one.
We only have 10 games. You're going to end up going like something like 2-15 this week.
Yeah, probably.
You know what? And if some of these hit,
I mean, yeah,
boy,
it'd be wild.
I'll be rich.
Now, when I look at this game, I saw what Colorado State did in their first game against Washington State. They gave up 50 points in that one. So if they give up 50 to Washington State, they'll for sure give up a lot of points to Colorado. I will take Colorado minus 23, and I'll take the over for this one.
Are we going to mush this? We have Mushing Hour?
Absolutely. It has to happen once.
I mean, it kind of happened. We all took the over in the WVU game. We all took Cuse. So, again, I'm taking Colorado minus 23 in the over. No one's stopping Coach Prime. I think Travis Hunter is going to have 4 picks and 250 yards on the game. Please stay safe, and I did not mean to bush you.
Lock of the game, George Sanders, 350 passing yards.
This kid's about to fucking tear his ACL.
Hey, don't even say that. Don't even say that.
Oh, no, you talk double A-Ron into fucking...
No.
Yeah, that was on purpose.
Listen, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers in part 2, but yeah, so George Sanders, 350 passing yards. You heard it here first. He's going to have a game and throw for 5 touchdowns. That's all I'm going to say about that game. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of Part 1 of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. In Part 2, we will talk about Week 1 of the NFL season. A big-time injury occurred last night on Monday Night Football. A lot of games also to discuss, including Thursday night's game against the Lions and Chiefs, a rough game for the Giants in Week 1 against Dallas Cowboys, and overall the rest of the slate in the National Football League. But for college football, we'll have to see what happens in week number 3 as we get a little bit closer towards seeing who are some of the top contenders in this year's college football season. I am Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson and Grayson Giammarino with the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Please stay tuned for part 2 of our conversation with the NFL Week 1 recap.